so far, Space Station took a minute for them to really start up, and TFECT never really got started up.
No.
But both of these teams on paper are very talented. What do you think was their biggest issue in the regular season?
I think that their beginning start was that they didn't really adapt to the meta compared to the way the other teams have. They tried to play a little bit more of the way the spring, the summer kind of panned out,
Sure.
whereas a lot of the other teams weren't really afraid of taking these objectives, taking these aggressive invasion opportunities.
And as we take a look at the bans here, Warriors, the focus for TFECT, and Hoyi and Kukulin going to be the bans out for Space Station Gaming. So the first selection for Ryzen in the mid lane. Andy on the Ryzen.
Andy has surprised me, honestly. His transition to that mid lane has just never stopped showing us something different between splits. He always brings a little bit of extra spice to the pot.
Well, Spice is exactly what TFECT is going to be bringing with Artio here. Ratataska, their first selection overall. But Artio, it's a character that public opinion thinks she's very, very strong. But the SMITE Pro League proves otherwise. TFECT think they have the secret.
I mean, it's quantity over quality. Everyone looks at Artio like, okay, she has 6 abilities. I'm playing a god that has 4. Clearly, there's a mismatch here. But honestly, there are ways to handle the Artio. If you're going to be playing recklessly aggressive with the Artio, you're going to get punished for it. That's actually what happened quite often in the SPL.
Well, Naja and Terra being the selections for Space Station Gaming. Again, gods that this team absolutely loves. Naja is a character that is going to look fantastic in the jungle for this squad. And Terra, a god that she got nerfed. The root slow in place of the root. A lot of people were talking about the death of Terra, and yet we've seen her played by strong players.
Still the ultimate. You get the clear casting, you get the mobility that you really need, and then you get the healing after the 4th hit, removing that stone. So that's still a good team fighting ultimate to really engage or just to disengage. It's kind of like a, you know, a bundle sprint.
Jingwei and Hercules banned out by TFECT. Space Station Gaming looking over there. Giannis and Soul. So the mid lane definitely being focused by SSG. TFECT's Heroin. Very curious as to see what he'll play. I don't think it's going to be the Chuck mid anytime soon, but we get to see the Chuck Kiki. Interesting choice here. This god brings pressure and a lot of nothing else.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if they kind of switch things up, though, knowing that Kiki can play almost anything, knowing that TFECT have guaranteed their spot in Super Regionals. Granted, seeding is still very important to see who's going to face off against E United or Luminosity, but still, at the end of the day, it's not the worst idea here to try to see if some other strategy might be working against Space Station.
Well, the last selection for TFECT is going to be the Aphrodite. I think that's going to be an Afro support. Afro middle lane, actually, for Heroin, most likely. So we'll see how this all works out. I think there's still some ambiguity. I'm not going to put my name on it just yet, but I think that TFECT might have some tricks up their sleeves. Amaterasu, on the other hand, is paired up with Scotty. Will be the last selections for SSG. I think we see Terra support. We get to see a whole bunch of fun here. Space Station Gaming and TFECT battling out in our last set of the regular season.
You know, the day started off pretty epically, honestly. It was ALG getting dropped into the relegation. So now we're going to wrap things up with Space Station against TFECT with an interesting composition, honestly. If you look at it from TFECT's point of view, going for this more late game style between Heroin playing this Aphrodite, Snoopy playing the Musin comp, also has some good mid-game objective control.
Yeah, it's like I said, TFECT, this is the most traditional that I think you could sort of expect this one to come out. I thought that there was a possibility to see. This is really what I thought, Tully. Legitimately, knowing TFECT, thought we would see Heroin on AMC, Kiki on Afro, Snoopy on Who Cares, and just sort of something like that. I really thought we would see Kiki on the Afro, but instead, much more traditional. Heroin's going to be playing Aphrodite here in the middle lane. She'll be able to really pair up late game with Snoopy. I think that's the game plan there.
It's very risky running Aphrodite in the solo lane so late in Season 4. The way these strategies from all these teams are generally revolved around getting mid lane pressure and then looking to invade the speed buff. 2-man collapse from both your mid and your solo lane. If you're not able to outclear there, well, there goes your speed buff.
One thing I do love on the other side of the draft as we watch Jigs smell the roses, Homie F.A. on the Naja. This is, I love this character on Homie F.A. specifically. You guys have heard me preach to the choir about how I want Homie F.A. to be on these hard carry jungles, but here of late he's sort of changed and he's more of a facilitator these days. A lot of people point to Thor to be that character, but Naja is the more aggressive form of that, in my opinion. You can be hard carry. Late game, you might as well buy a Fatalis and hit people with Flaming Spear, but at the same time, you're also setting your team up with Sash and the ultimate.
That's true. Naja providing you with one of these gods where if once you're in as Naja, whereas Thor can provide the same kind of damage and initiation, but has more safety to be able to get out of danger and self-peel with a stun that doesn't put you out of position, whereas the stun from a Naja is going to bring you closer to the enemy. Sometimes that's going to be what you want, but then sometimes you're also not going to want to be put in a position where you're going to get hit by that late game of Musenkab.
At the same time, I think that the damage upside of the Naja is a little bit higher than the Thor, which is why I kind of like this move, and especially early game. The ring bounce and the sash into a couple of lucky crits, that's really where Naja starts to shine. And like I said, Homie Efe, give the player the tools to succeed. Homie on a hard carry, yes please.
Absolutely. He's also going to be able to buy a lot of time if he takes anyone in the sky. Even if it's going to be a tank that's resilient, the rest of his teammates could easily follow up. Permafrost can be positioned by Zatman. He has so much time to position it in a way that'll bring that enemy even closer to them or make it more difficult to escape, or the rest of the enemy allies to get closer.
Small thing I want to highlight right there. It is a lot of fun. You can look at this when you see high-level junglers play any of the gods with the cleave basic attacks. Homie kind of attacking the air right there to ensure that he's able to hit the front minions with the cleave basic attack. So when you're going up, you're getting into trouble. You're putting yourself in harm's way when you're going up to attack the wave. He has to attack once with that cleave. Really making sure to maximize all that fun stuff.
And once your second steroid ability is finished maxing out, you're going to get that attack speed to build that attack chain even faster. The third hit in the chain is the big single damage target ability, or target in hand rather, and then the fourth one is that big in hand. And once you get some crit, boy, watch out, because that can go over 4-digit marker.
Yeah, I mean, we figured to see Naja's that by Deathbringer, although it not being the most mathematically sound for the ultimate, Deathbringer by way of your basic attacks are still incredible. We see Naja's late game with Deathbringer crit for over 1,000.
It's just ridiculous. Even on objectives, it's not a bad idea. If you're really trying to sneak a Gold Fury, Portal Demon, Fire Giant, whatever the case is, going for that style is not a bad idea to get your team ahead, even though you might not be providing the most DPS in team fights.
So right now, early on in the game, teams really focused on not the aggression and the pressure that we've seen in the past. No invades as of yet. This is the second round of buff camps that are spawning. Both teams sticking to their own side of the map. When you look at the compositions, I'm happy about that if I'm TFECT, because I'm just sitting here saying Aphrodite doesn't exist in the beginning of the game. She's gonna put the birds down and like maybe you accidentally walk into them. But come mid and late game, the Aphrodite is going to be a big deal, both defensively helping out her team, but also offensively. She brings some damage.
Absolutely. It's very risky for Space Station to force an engagement if they aren't 100% certain they'll find a kill, because Herwin will top everyone off, easily able to bring them back into team fights.
Later on, right now is when they should be looking to engage.
Yes.
And so it looks like that's exactly what Space Station's going to do. TFECT in Space Station's jungle getting excitable, and Cytoshore is the one with the first blood. Herwin paired up with Aurora, looking to take down the players, looking at the Hunter. But it's going to be Jigs and Homie Efe getting out there safely.
Beautiful beats by Snoopy, preventing Homie Efe from taking it to the sky.
The stun during the dash, and he got smoked out during the teleport from Raijin. Not enough damage to bring him down to 0. Oh, but that's scary.
It's actually TFECT forcing something going on in the jungle of Space Station, despite them having that late game presence between the Musenkab and the Aphrodite. Space Station got caught a little bit slipping there. They weren't truly recognizing the threat that TFECT could bring.
That's what I was going to say, was that TFECT is not the team. Space Station is the team that should be hitting the gas and taking advantage of this early game Aphrodite, because like I said, she doesn't really do much early. So Is it that was Space Station just kind of caught off guard, not expecting the invade from an Aphrodite?
A little bit on that regard, and at the same time also Homie F.A. dropping the ring bounces, clipped the purple buff there, and limited a lot of his damage potential. Had the team fight happened outside of buffs where the ring bounces wouldn't be absorbed by that third-party entity, then maybe the team fight will swing in Space Station's favor.
Big point there, yeah. Naja, a lot of the damage early comes from the ring toss. Not just that, but also the protection shred that the ring toss offers. So able to get in there and do some extra damage as well. Tiki on the chalk here, taking some damage from Scary D. Level 8, level 9 is really when Amaterasu starts getting, well, scary in this lane.
Yeah, same thing goes with Chalk, honestly, because his max is getting to that point where it's going to be doing a lot of damage. Once the Amaterasu starts maxing out that first ability, it's going to be providing her with a little bit more sustain. Chalk has another option here. Chalk's kit is a little bit less straightforward than Amaterasu in terms of like what do you level next after the axe. You're generally going to be maxing out the heal if you want to keep up in the laning phase, or if you want to go for the poke, you have to go for the second ability.
Yeah, Torrent brings out a lot of damage, and of course, it's interesting leveling the Torrent because Torrent is how you make yourself tankier. You're adding protections on yourself with Torrent, your sort of Whirlwind ability on number 2, and so by maxing that out, you're able to fight a little bit more, but then you're neglecting that heal. So really what we see is if you want to rotate early and often, a lot of times, you know, we see a couple of players spreading it out in between the two abilities even. This is, Chalk becomes very interesting depending on what you want to do. If you're staying in the lane, like you said, show love to that heal. But if you want to do other things, there's a couple of options.
Whereas Amaterasu will always be maxing out the aura after her lane clear, going to give her more mobility to be able to out-rotate Chalk. And Kiki's one of these utility-style soul laners that will generally put himself behind on purpose, but this game, the way himself and the rest of his TFECT teammates have been playing, they haven't really needed him to do that. We've seen him sometimes where he'll make a very early rotation, pre-level 5 even, to Snoopy's lane trying to get him ahead, but TFECT hasn't needed him to do so.
Not on the Chalk. I mean, you lose if you do that with Chalk. We talk about characters that are better from ahead or behind. Well, nobody's better from behind, but some characters can fight from behind and others can't. Chalk ceases to do what Chalk wants to do when he's coming from behind. Jake's in a little bit of trouble as Aurora and Herwin start to dive the tier 2 tower here very early on. But Chalk needs that lead because he needs the numbers to buy the offensive items. If he's not dealing damage, he's not doing Chalk.
TFECT yet again utilizing their strategy of invading the red and the purple buff. Zapman's still trying to farm it up. He's 3 levels behind Snoopy off of this one death. Snoopy's still surviving. He's able to really maximize his farming potential. And now TFECT, I think they're starting up this goal. Oh no, just Oracles.
So here's my question, because we noted that the first 2 rotations of the jungle were no invades. And usually we see, even from the beginning, right? A couple of invades. Space Station has the classic composition here. Mid lane, Homie F.A. not in too much trouble. He'll be able to get there. Why didn't we see Space Station get aggressive?
Hold that thought, though. Mid lane, Anister trying to poke out Aurora. We didn't see Space Station go aggressive. Homie F.A. misses!
He misses the ult and he gets punished for it. Sinoshore puts him in the ground. That's 2 for the jungle. Ratatasker. Jake's in trouble. The knockup not going to be good. Scary D at the impact. Coming all the way from the solo lane. Taking Kiki So Cheeky out. They fight in the solo, and it confirms in the mid.
Zapman making his rotation, giving him mobility, slowing down Herwin, forcing out the beats. Nice disruption by Sinoshore, but the ultimate from Zap going to keep him in place for the moment. But Scary D getting punished so heavily. The root not in range to find the kill.
Sinoshore is incredible. I was going to say nuts, but I really wanted to avoid that pun. Sinoshore made a fantastic play right there with the double stun on his tower, separating his team from everywhere else. Also, he's the owner of both kills on the side of TFECT. This guy, this is his first season in the Pro League, and he's really shown up nice. Nice transfer from the console league.
So what you were asking me before, as we got rudely interrupted by the action, was how TFECT was able to get off that invade so successfully. It was the fact that they grouped up and looked for poke before the invade. They found Jigs alone for a little bit, got him to about half of his health, and forced out an early monolith, and then during that cooldown, just exploited the red buff.
Well, it's also the fact that they sort of waited a little while past the normal point of invade. We usually see an invade on number 1, number 2. They waited till number 3 and number 4 in order to start the invades. My question to you is, why didn't Space Station hit the gas earlier? Why didn't they start invading at number 2?
I don't think they found any opening to really exploit here. Their rotations to be able to farm, they were prioritizing too much farming in lane. Didn't want to overextend and put themselves out of position because TFECT can easily punish you. A Ratatasker with a global presence to just go through those branches is not the safest thing to look for an invade if you're on Space Station side.
That's fair. That's fair. Keep you so cheeky here, clearing out the wave. Shouldn't have too many problems here any longer. Level 12 on the chalk. Should be relatively safe and sound. Breastplate of Valor, no big deal.
Another invade from TFECT on the left-hand side. They got this red buff on lockdown. Snoopy still 3 levels ahead of his counterpart. Stacking up this Devil Gloves already at 30, whereas Zamman is less concerned about the lifesteal, wants more physical power by going this Transcendence. Typical Scotty kind of identity.
Well, Jig's in trouble. Half HP here. Big rotation out of TFECT. You hear Jig's ultimate and see Sino in the sky. Gonna land on top of Snoopy, forcing out the Aegis as the guys from Space Station Gaming. However, it's all about up north. Snoopy still in trouble. Scary D by himself, trying to deal it, but Herwin, keeping that hunter alive. And here comes Big Daddy Chalk. Kiki and Shore combined for 2 kills amongst the 2 of them.
Finding 2 onto Space Station. Third one onto Scary D. Nowhere to go. Permafrost is being used, but Zamman didn't get the movement speed boost from it. The rest of TFECT, they're going to lock down and find their 4th victim.
Herwin misses the stun onto Andinster, but 4 of their players are dead. It doesn't matter. TFECT, fantastic team fight. Herwin keeping Snoopy alive was such a big point.
The presence of mind from Herwin. He made sure that once he saw Scary D using his ultimate, trying to lock down that hunter that didn't have the beads available at the time or the Aegis, needed to pop that bubble, keeping the hunter alive, allowing Snoopy to keep doing more damage, especially with the red buff on him. That's a huge amount of damage that TFECT would have lost.
Yeah, and listen, I know a lot of people out there might think that these guys are having fun, and they totally are, but seeding, important, sure, but this is also your last meaningful. Scrims and SPL play are very different. The atmosphere, the way you play, and even in a game towards the end of the season like this, the atmosphere here is very different. This is the last time you get practice on a big stage like this. This Aphrodite pick is absolutely a real choice here from TFECT.
And it's also about the mentality of your last result. Some people say, like, you're only as good as your last game,
For
right?
sure.
And that could be looked upon even individually as a player. Sometimes you might have mood swings, so like, oh man, I lost my last game. I'm like such a bad player. I'm like, oh, I destroyed my last teammates. I'm the best in the world.
And, you know, like I'm excited to see this Herwin pick here because when I look at gods like I'm using Cobb, that's when Aphrodite comes to mind. Very rarely does Aphrodite come to mind, but it's when I think about gods like I'm using Cobb, like Kali, these characters that are fantastic in their own right, but might just need a little bit of a oomph.
I mean, if you think way back to launch tournament, using Cobb Aphrodite was key to a lot of team success.
Shadow Q juking.
Shadow Q juking, but it wasn't just Shadow Q playing the Aphrodite. Some other teams ran it as well. Yep. Mostly Team Dignitas did back then, wanting to really make sure that our hunter would stay alive.
Yeah, that was your glory day over there playing in the support role, in the solo lane. Excuse me. It was always fun to watch you guys play it out.
A lot of Amus and Cobbs recently.
Yes.
Too many.
Too many? You don't like the bees?
I mean, I love the bee, but I want to be a special snowflake. I want to be the only one playing the bee. There's too many people playing the bee.
Well, nobody's playing the bee in the solo lane for what it's worth.
True.
So you're good there. You're fine in that regard. Once we start seeing a couple more Ymir solos and the Ares solos to counter the tiers, we'll call you up, Tully. How about that?
That sounds fair to me. I'll take a rain check on that one.
Returning here to this game, though, I really like one of the fun things here is you ever give names to compositions?
Not recently, no.
Not recently. When was the last time? Oh, homie, if he could get caught by Sino. Oh, but he misses the stun.
Still doing a little bit of damage, but Kiki delivering a lot more.
Target locked. He's going for Homie FA. 1 jump, 2 jump, Ooh. But the ultimate from Homie perfectly timed to get out of the crosshairs from Sino Shore. Love the play right there. Portal Demon has to be leashed out by TFECT, but they'll start it one more time. 5 players on this side of the map. safely done because the Gold Fury already gone.
Just like that, Trifecta with another objective under their belt. They got the Gold Fury after that 4-for-0 trade, I believe it was, earlier on. But something we haven't really harped on was Aurora. Playing this RDO, that cripple field is really shutting down Scary D or Jigs' potential to be that frontline disruptor.
Now, one of the problems that RDO has, as we've seen in the past at the pro level, is her ability to really get in there to do what she needs to do, because her stun and her cripple field, as I love to point out, is PB-AoE. It's a point-blank AoE around her body. You can't use it from a distance. You can't aim it or target somebody. You've got to be in somebody's face in order to actually apply that crowd control. Aurora's doing a fantastic job of actually making it useful.
Trying to steal away the speed buff. Actually will clip it with the Acorn. Not done yet. Dashing onto Scary D. Hitting 3 members with a second ability. Mid lane, though. Innis are going to get stunned out. Doves and the back off.
Look at the power of that.
Look at Aurora.
Look at the power of the Raiju there. That's really sort of negated thanks to Herwin's heals. Homie FA and everybody collapsing on Aurora. One more time. Sino in the sky. Lands behind Scary D. Stuns out Homie FA. And again, dashes back to safety. Sino has such a nice option play there. He can go aggro and look for the kills, or he can just provide enough space for his teammates. I think he makes the great decision there. Lands down, scares the enemy, walks away.
Only 1 ultimate from Trifecta used. 2 from Space Station. Herwin still having his. 3 members being backed underneath their own tier 1 tower from Space Station, with Gold Fury respawning in less than 20 seconds. Trifecta gotta go for this one.
And this is all Sinoshore's decision tree, right? As I said, he sort of had the option to go aggressive or just play defense for his team. He plays defense for his team because he knows that his buffs on the right side of the map are up. He picks up his speed buff, so he chases the enemy out, picks up his speed buff because he knows he'll be back here in time for the Gold Fury. If he goes aggressive, even if they get a kill, he might die, his team gets low, and they're not able to make that efficiency play, which is really what Trifecta's looking for and why they're up about 8,000 gold.
Everyone from Trifecta is playing lights out this game. Everyone's doing their part. Snoopy's 5 levels ahead. Sinoshore's taking the calculated risky play towards stealing the speed buff, and Aurora is just making sure nobody comes in here, finding a kill on Homie FA.
Just the one-man bouncer here. Super Chunk doing it right. Trifecta now looking for the aggressive play on the kill. Kiki just zoning. It's just Kiki and Aurora on zone patrol. Just cook up his zone. Nobody coming through. Gold Fury again going to Trifecta. Tier 1 tower. Nobody's playing defense here, Toli. And this one's going to go to Trifecta as well.
It's a level 18 of Musinka with red buff. That tower melted so fast. That man cannot make this rotation and keep up with Snoopy because he's 4 levels behind. He's even neglecting to go for that height of the urchin that most Scotties will do, simply because he doesn't have any damage.
And that's the right call. Fire Giant just brawn play. Watch out for Andy. Watch out for Andy. They don't know he's here. Here comes the ultimate. 1, 2, 3, 4 shots, and it's all on the side of Trifecta despite Anderson's best wishes. Sinoshore trying to deal, and bang! Herwin with the last hit. The support style mid-mage, 1-0-7. Give it up for Tyler. Fantastic showing today on the Aphrodite.
I love it when I see individual players switch up their styles to go for a more utility-based role, and that's something that Herwin has been doing for most of his career. He has been playing also a lot of these bursty mages every now and then. I'd say that he likes to play more utility style more often than not, but he's always switching it up.
Here, you know what it is for me when it comes to Herwin, and I think he's sneakily one of the better players on the planet, is because he doesn't, when he switches up his style, he's adding to his repertoire of gameplay options. A lot of times these players, Trex Tank plays aggressive supports, give him a warrior, right?
Sure.
You know, we identify these players as their styles, and sometimes they go outside of their realm, but they come back and they always have a home style. Herwin was once sort of a passive player that went too aggressive, and then he learned how to reel it back in. He just added how to reel it back in. He didn't lose anything else. And then we watched him, he's a utility player. Well, this season we watched him play aggressive characters like Kugel Khan and just go ham, and he just added to that repertoire. He doesn't lose anything. So now no matter what, especially with a team like TFECT that likes to try different stuff, Harwin's in this mid lane position going, all right, what do you want me to do? Because I can literally do whatever you want.
You can use that same speech for all 3 frontliners here from TFECT. Zapman getting dove under his own tier 1 tower.
What do you
no
do?
Teammates next to him. Fire Giant around everyone from TFECT.
What do you do?
You're going to lose all these towers anyway, and that's probably why that Harwin and the rest of the squad is doing so well in some of these games, because they have their moments of brilliance, just outshining against almost anyone, simply because their ability to flex between different identities, different styles, and keeping their teams guessing.
They have to find, as TFECT wound up splitting about even, I think 5-5 up until last week. Very, very average win-loss record. As the aggressor on the right side, Phoenix met up with a little bit of defense. They have to find the consistency,
Left side
and that's
Phoenix.
the problem.
So low already, but the sustain from Harwin and Fire Giant keeping everybody topped off.
Oh, Scary D going deep.
He wants to go in. Snoopy missing out his stinger there. He really wanted to try to hit Scary D, prevent the dash, maybe even try to lock him down and find the kill. Not being patient enough to wait for the setup.
One more time, here comes TFECT, this time with Kiki in tow. All 5 players here, and Snoopy just pummeling this Firebird. Down it goes at 21-36.
Aurora just soloed Homie Efe with 3 people and the Titan right next to him.
But Anister punishes and takes out Aurora for going a little bit too deep. Zapman in trouble. The Aegis is good this time around. Sano gets stunned underneath the Titan. One shot does it. Anister cheats himself a 3rd kill.
This is where teams get in that weird, awkward position where they're so far ahead, 15,000 to be specific from TFECT, that they feel so confident trying to go for these Phoenixes, these Titans. Meanwhile, Kiki taking out Zapman, Scary D trying to do what he can, but he's going to get surrounded by Snoopy and Harwin.
And Jigs again just being chocked down. There's the Torrent. Kiki finishes off Jigs. 3-1-5 for the Georgia local. Anister still alive here.
The slow.
Oh, he gets beads out.
There's some abilities that just make you feel bad when you have to use a relic.
Yeah.
The honey.
I was just going to say that.
The honey from a Musenkab is not one of those abilities in a perfect world you would want to use any of your defensive relics.
Oh, I was just going to say that, man. Yeah, it definitely does not feel good.
But what are you going to do? Do you just sacrifice? Like, you don't die there. Like, if you die
he's
there...
He's dead if he's slowed. He's dead.
If he's slowed, and then he'll continuously eat some of the damage over time. He doesn't have Bluestone, so maybe he wouldn't have died necessarily because there was no Bluestone. It would have been too close to call.
I think the slow allows a chase down scenario. As soon as the beads happen, that's when you see TFECT turn away. I think it's the right call. It just totally just sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks for everybody from Space Station. You know, no matter what happens there, this is almost a point of no return for a Space Station, with them being down 17,000 gold, almost 1,000 gold deficit per minute on the clock.
You can see right there, 12,100 healing coming out from the mid lane mage Harwin on the Aphrodite. I mean, 12,000 damage, that is Zapman and Homie FA combined.
Yeah, just not able to really do their job.
That is 2 entire players' damage combined.
That one team fight, that one first invade from the red and the purple really got Zapman behind it. Then the second one was actually probably the last nail in the coffin, because TFECT didn't allow Space Station back in the game. Everything that TFECT did was a calculated risk that Space Station couldn't respond to at all.
Just like the Fire Giant.
Yep.
Space Station can't respond to this one either. Snoopy and Harwin just teaming up, making it happen. Snoopy, or Harwin, of course, is giving Snoopy more movement speed as well. Don't forget, the biggest thing about Aphrodite that is sometimes overlooked by players is the jealousy proc. That man just getting wrecked here by Sino Shore.
He's not going to live. He's actually going to almost die to the Thorns. Here comes the dunk down. Soloed. Sino Shore. He had nothing to do, though, honestly. Zapman needed to try to go for that tower push.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is... you go for the Hail Marys at this point. You're literally 20,000 gold down. But, oh, man.
That's why a lot of players back in the day would want to go Apollo, because in a position of losing like this, you would potentially look for that split push and then instantly ulti out. But Scotty doesn't have that luxury.
That jealousy damage that I was talking about. Harwin finds a stun on somebody, and Snoopy's already ridiculous damage just gets amplified even more so. Players just melt. The Aphrodite brings a lot of different levels, a lot of different layers of utility here.
That's
for what
definitely
Trifecta want to do.
It's definitely an overlooked mechanic there. Scary D. Dash is going to get intercepted there. Aurora going to lock him down for the moment, forcing Scary D back, allowing Trifecta to secure themselves the last Phoenix.
All Phoenixes are down. The left one is about to respawn in a matter of moments, so keep that one in mind here. The guys from Trifecta putting on a clinic. And totally earlier I asked, I brought up naming compositions. And World of Warcraft used to do it a lot. Retribution Paladin and Rogue was called Scooby-Doo because you'd go Ret Rogue. I bring that up because Trifecta, the right side of their map, chock full of nuts.
I'm almost about to drop my headset and walk out here on you.
Get it?
Chock full of nuts.
Hell yeah, man. Chock full of nuts. It's Kiki and Sanashore on the Chalk Man and the Rat. That's how they do it. And honestly, jokes aside, it's how they did it.
That's true.
The pressure on the right side of the map, the just all-out brawling coming out from Kiki and Sanashore allowed this team to just get ahead to a point where there was no coming back.